Hola Sombrero Time teachers. I wanted to give you an overview of the week that's coming up. So we are in Spanish 1, Unit 7, Week 2. So we got this week and then next week, and then we've got spring break, and then we're coming back for the repaso and assessment. So that's a little bit tricky, but I'll be talking you through that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and videotape all three of those together, so that I really kind of emphasize you want to hit it hard in the next 2 weeks. Your kids, the sun's coming out, it's going to get a little bit challenging, but do some fun stuff. Like if you're going to play charades, maybe take them outside of the classroom and make it fun for them. Do a little charades in the park or dialogue in the park when you're not doing the reading and writing with the workbooks. Or sometimes even if you are practicing the dialogue, if it's later in the week and they already have memorized the dialogue, do it outside and change it up with some props. Now you really want to bring props in. We're going into el baño, and we're going to be talking about me cepillo los dientes, me peino el pelo, me lavo la cara, those kind of things. So what you want to do is really, this is like a big drama week, big reinforcement through props and acting out. Once again, you don't have the visual flashcards, so you want to bring in the props, and then have on the sentence strips we gave you at the beginning of the year, have the phrases already written out so that they can see the words. Super important that you're engaging the visual, which is the scripted word already written out for them, the audio, which is you telling them the words and them repeating it, and then the kinesthetic is the drama part, acting it out. So you always want to be hitting those three learning modalities. Okay, so let me get into it. Our big objectives this week are learning the activities that you do in the bathroom, which are me peino el pelo, me cepillo los dientes y el pelo, me lavo la cara, el pelo, las manos, me miro en el espejo y me pongo la ropa. Okay? The other thing I really want you to hit is ordinal words. Primero, segundo, tercero, cuarto, quinto, sexto, séptimo. You can go up to about 5th or 6th if you have first graders. If you have older kids, you know, take them up to maybe 8th. And then you want to say por último, you know, ultimately. Okay, perfect. Day 1, our target words are limpio y sucio. So every day bring in something that's clean and dirty, but make it different. One day is clothing. One day is a toy. One day is something else. We don't want to just hit clothing or just hit, you know, maybe our hands, like we get our hands dirty and then we wash them. Me lavo las manos y ya están limpios. So you want to change it up all the time. In the first day, we're going to do an oraciones completas. That will be on page 69. Make sure that you're going over, they're going to put in the article for the first 3 sentences, and then they're going to circle the verb that goes correctly in that sentence. Make sure that you build in time into your lesson plan to go ahead and have them correct that out loud. Okay, so you're going to correct it with them. They're going to read the sentence correctly with you to make sure they have it right, and maybe read it a second time for pronunciation. There is, in 4 to 6, you're going to correct the errors. There should only be 1 error per sentence, but I'm looking here, sometimes there's 2. All right, and then the last one is fill in using the word sucio. So that is one of the target words, limpio y sucio. So you want to use that in all the 4 forms. Masculine, feminine, masculine, plural, feminine, plural. So that's what we're doing with oraciones completas. Have your dialogue written out on those sentence strips, just like you're going to do with your target reflexive vocabulary. That way they can see it, hear it, as they're acting it out. This dialogue drama has 2 people in it, so have fun with that and change the reflexive verbs that you use over time. But first just memorize it the way that it is. All right. On the first day, I talk about vocabulary development, and I say, worksheet, mi rutina diaria. Don't use the worksheet. That really is for day 4. You're going to go over a chart that you build for your students about your daily routine. And this is how you're going to present the vocabulary to them. Now, I just wrote the beginnings of 2 examples. You want to make this pretty big so your whole class. So this is just for the video. I just wrote this here. But you could go, 6 de la mañana me levanto. Primero me cepillo los dientes. Segundo me lavo la cara. You can just, draw a little thing here. Or frankly, you could use those sentence strips and then put them in order and say, this is my routine. And use the target vocabulary that you have written on those. Or, if your kids need a little bit more reinforcement on time, go ahead and put the time here and then just write in how you wake up in the order of what you do. Somewhere, I want you to write out the ordinal words that you're teaching your kids and go ahead and have them see those words and apply them to maybe their daily routine. Bring up some volunteers and have them place the reflexive verbs in the order of which they get ready in the morning. Okay? So that's what you want to do on the first day. You don't want to use the worksheet. That will come on day 4. All right. On to day 2. This is a fun week, you guys. All kinds of crazy stuff with this. Get a little wet with the lava las manos, lava la cara con agüita, agua. Okay, on day 2, I want to make sure that when you're doing your opening sentence, you're talking about limpio y sucio. You emphasize, ¿estás limpia? Sí, la camiseta está limpia. Okay, todos juntos. Say it together. La camiseta está limpia. I just want to tell you, so I've been Skyping my kids with a family in Argentina. Our editor has 3 kids about the same age as my kids. I am so proud of my children. They are building out full sentences. So good job, Señora Marrón y Señora Muñoz. They have been training our kids to be saying a full sentence when they're asked a question. This is why I really want you to hit this hard. You want to maintain the integrity of a sentence because people in conversation, we usually don't answer in a full sentence, but as a language learner, to know the full sentence that you would say to properly answer a question is so impressive, and that's how we write. So we want to produce I'd rather have the kids over-articulate an answer to a question and have it right with all that practice than to under-articulate, and then when they get to the writing piece, they just want to write one word instead of the full sentence. So it's part of my thinking behind that. Okay. Have your classes repeat the sentence, okay? In the calendar time, you want to do the same questions. What's the date? ¿Qué es la fecha de hoy? And then continue to focus on those ordinal numbers, okay? Maybe have the ordinal numbers written out, like I said before, pass them out to some of the kids in your class, and then see if they can figure out how to line up and say, ¿Quién está primero? Okay, Juanito está primero. ¿Y quién sigue? Margarita está segunda. Like, have them figure out how to put in a line, and then have the kids say the ordinal placement of each child. Get your kids talking. Okay, the second day for pronunciation, we want to go through the sentences, building them out, have your kids clap, over-pronunciate, and then there's a really fun song in Play and Learn Spanish. If you don't have that book, don't worry about it. You can buy it off of Amazon. It's Ana Lomba. She does a great job. But it is a fun song that goes along with the theme of this week, which is El Baño. Okay, work on the dialogue some more. Maybe change up the characters who are in it, change up the voices, maybe change up some of the props so they have to do different things and apply different language. Day 2 is a great day to go outside because you will be doing charades. Give the kids the opportunity to pick one of those sentence strips that says one of the reflexive verbs, and then they have to act it out, and whichever team gets it first wins the point. Now, I would love it if you had access to actually some scratch paper or whiteboard, and the team that wins is the team that can write the sentence. Now, but that's up to you, depending on how old your kids are and what they can handle. Super fun game, though. All right, day 3, moving right along. Opening, kind of the same stuff. Calendar, focus on clothing and weather. We want to be reaching back continually and pulling up stuff from behind us to reinforce and recycle content so they don't forget. Okay? So ask some questions about clothing and weather and how those relate. On day 3, we're going to do the second oraciones completas on page 70. I kind of already explained what that's about, except the last 4 sentences are the 4 different uses of limpio. So it'll be masculine, feminine, and then the 2 plurals of that. All right. Definitely by day 3, we're mixing up the dialogue so that we can be adding new characters and new movements, making sure we hit all the reflexive sentences that we would do in el baño. Now, on day 3, this is a very fun game, and you have the directions in each of the children's workbook on page 68. This is cadena, okay? So on page 68, they have this. So they can be looking at that. Now, one of the things that they can do is they can memorize. You can give each of them a number, okay? So they're not ripping this out, or you don't have to make copies if you don't have time. You can make copies, cut it into 4, and then pass it out, and then the groups come up and act them out, as well as say them. And you can make this into like a relay race, or you can put them into groups of 4, or you can just call them on numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All the ones have to memorize. Primero me pongo el pijama. And then you count out, okay, give me a 1, give me a 2, give me a 3, give me a 4. And then they line up, and they have to act out and say it. So that's how you can do it. Or you can photocopy this, cut it out, put them in groups, and then have them do like a relay race. But they have to be able to say it as they do it, okay? And better for them to be able to say it from memory. Then switch it up. Give them another thing to memorize and act out. Super fun game. Okay, on day 4, this is the last day. The thing I really want to emphasize is the pronunciation on day 4. So what I would like you to do on that day, you're going to read sentences, and you want to practice a sentence about 3 times before you ask them to write it. By the time they write it, they really should have it memorized. And these are really consistent with the content, so they should be good with that. But they're going to write out their sentence here, and for every line, there's a space between the lines. There is a word. Okay, I didn't include this in the instructions, but you want them to then circle what the clock says. There is a typo right here. Cuatro is what I wrote, but I meant to do cuarto. Cuatro. I did put cuarto, room, but I meant to put cuatro. Okay, so fix that for them before they go and do that one on the dictation. All right, day 4, for sure that dialogue should be tweaked and maneuvered and altered and varied. This is how they understand the flexibility of language. This is what distinguishes Sombrero time from most traditional Spanish-speaking instruction, is that we show the variation that we can move this dialogue in, so they don't get stuck if it's not exactly the same thing every time, because language never works that way, and that's what we want to give them, a real life experience. Now, at the end of day 4 is when you're going to use the worksheet on page 67. On page 67 it says mi rutina. This is somewhere where they have to listen to you, give the instructions, and then they have to write primero, segundo, tercero. If you have older kids that can handle it, you could even have them kind of write the words in the sentence along here. That's a great extension. But if you have first graders in their first year of Spanish, it's probably too much for them. They can handle it in a dictation, but trying to listen, retain, and put in order is a lot for little guys, okay? So really what this task is looking for is listening comprehension. Do they understand what the ordinal and the reflexive verb is saying, and can they put the number in the box that follows your verbal instruction? Okay, so that's it for Spanish 1, Unit 7, Week 2. Hasta luego.